Hey, welcome to Authentic Influence. This is Anthony Chancemuth from simplecreativemarketing.com. And today we are talking about how to build trust and credibility when selling online products. And we're going to talk about product development and, how do you go about building a business and a brand that is completely online and that that allows you to take your expertise and convert that into products that you can sell and make a living. And to do that, I've invited my good friend Adrian Neumeyer. Am I saying that right, Adrian?
Yes, perfect.
To come join us. So Adrian's from tacticalprojectmanager.com, and he's got a fantastic site over there teaching project managers how to be better project managers. So he's the founder and CEO of Tactical Project Manager, and Adrian has been working as an IT project manager for the past 10 years. And today, his focus is to help people improve their project management and leadership skills. And welcome to the show, Adrian.
Thanks, and for inviting me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, we kind of started this. I mean, we're part of a mastermind group together, and we've been having regular meetups and learning, about each other's businesses. And more than that, I think, for me, the value of the conversations. I want to give a shout out to our good mate Tim as well. It's really about just the journey of the entrepreneur, isn't it? It's really about just, like we have families, we have things going on outside of work, but we also love to get into the tactical marketing and entrepreneurship conversations as well. And so it's been really, I guess for me, it's been really valuable, particularly this year with all the things going on.
Absolutely.
We had a good conversation about just building an online business and developing trust with buyers, especially if they don't know who you are and they're coming to your site for the first time. Maybe they're doing a search in Google for a specific keyword or a problem that they're trying to solve. And you've done a great job of putting content on your site that, speaks to these project managers, and it's bringing them to Tactical Project Manager .com, and from there you've got a ton of resources that they can get into, and that then leads them down a journey of whether it's subscribing to your email list and getting some content there, or purchasing a product, right? So you've got templates, you've got courses, you've got other things that are available. So can you just take us back to the beginning of the journey? When did you decide to actually launch the site, and that this would be something that you wanted to pursue?
Sure. So a bit of background about me. I have an IT background, and I've been working in the industry for more than 10 years, and mainly managing large IT projects. And as with everybody joining project management, becoming a project manager is really challenging at the beginning. But I also wanted to grow. I wanted to, test my limits and see if I could get to the next level. I wasn't clear back then what that would look like, become of course, a great project leader, but maybe a manager or so. So I was really trying to do my best and really develop great project management or leadership skills. And after the initial couple of months where it was really challenging, then I got better and better, and I got to lead more advanced, more complex projects, until after a few years where I got to manage really multi-million-dollar IT implementation projects. So if anybody is familiar with the company SAP, it's the leading enterprise software vendor. Most of the Fortune 500 companies and also medium-sized business, they run SAP to manage their business processes and the entire range of processes. And I was in charge of implementing those projects. And I'm always joking that I always got the less popular projects, unlike, let's say, a marketing project or a design project or human resources, which are like very narrow areas where you have stakeholders which are all very committed, and But as you can imagine, and of these IT implementations, I mean, it's no fun to basically change or roll out these systems and completely change the way and the processes how people do their job. I mean, they are not all excited about the change that's coming. You're taking away the Excel sheets that people have been using to manage their inventory and so on. So to make the long story short, very challenging projects, and I had to develop communication skills. I had to learn about influence, about persuasion, by doing the job. And so I really got to a very good level. And after some time, I always have been excited about entrepreneurship, and I've been experimenting with online businesses of various kinds for several years. And then I just started writing about project management. So essentially a blog where I shared my experiences. I shared tips, which everybody could just read for free. So this is how Tactical Project Manager came about. So it was really, I enjoy teaching, and I also saw there was a need for helping people, giving people really practical hands-on advice on how to manage projects, how to work with clients, how to engage stakeholders, how to gather requirements, and so on. Because most of the content on the web that somehow relates to project management is either a very high level, it doesn't give you the exact steps, it's not actionable, or it's very bureaucratic and formalistic, and it's an overkill for even for medium-sized companies. So that is how Tactical Project Manager got started.
That's fantastic. I like just the journey, and I can relate to that, obviously. But you and I have spoken about my sort of history. I came from project management as well, so I worked for HP for a number of years. Got my start in the corporate world there. So I'm also accustomed to working with these $1 million projects, or multi-million-dollar projects. We were more tech implementation based, and I worked across multiple regions. So I was really in charge of APAC, but also had teams. Like I had a project where I had to go to Atlanta and spend some time over there and work with the team in Costa Rica. Actually, that's where they were based, and so there's definitely always a need for project managers to skill up, to learn how to do their roles better. And I'm quite curious about how you identified the need. You mentioned that when you were looking for resources for your own knowledge, and you identified, there's some gaps here. What was your process to identify what those gaps were that where you could really then start producing articles for or resources for, and fill that gap? Because that's really, I've spoken before on this show about, and I've had Gert Melak, from SEO Leverage, and he talks about finding the content gap, doing keyword research, and really finding the opportunities to produce content or articles that rank well, that bring traffic to your site. Can you just give us some insight into, I guess, your research process, and how do you find your next thing that you're going to write about, the next,
Right.
how does that work for you? And are there any specific tools that you use along the way?
So as I said, in the beginning, it was just a hobby blog, I would say. But then I also looked at the other websites that were available that talked about project management. And as I said, it was not helpful, the kind of content. But at the same time, I understood that, leading a project is really, there are a lot of pain, different kinds of pain involved, because you have the time pressure, you are working with difficult people, you're getting, feeling the pressure from all the sides. And I was fortunate to have really working for big corporations like you, where you get the kind of internal training to build your project management and leadership skills. But many, especially for people in smaller and medium-sized companies, they don't have that kind of these institutions or these departments which really train you to become a great project leader. So I thought there could be a gap, and now with the internet where content can be accessed from anywhere, I thought this is a great opportunity. The next step I took to really validate my idea was to schedule or to offer a live class, paid live class in my hometown. And I had 3 people show up. I mean, it was a really short-term arrangement, but anyway, I booked a room. I had 3 customers, paying customers, and I did a 3-day evening class on how to manage projects successfully. So that already gave me a good, the direction, and I saw that people were actually interested in what I had to say. What I did next was really I spent a lot of time talking to other people who I mean, we always say project managers, but not everybody who is managing a project is a project manager by title. So I talked to lots of people who were involved in projects, and I listened to their stories and their, what did they struggle with? What were they concerned with? What kind of things were they eager to learn? What were their goals? What was going on in their minds? So lots of interviews I did with former colleagues, but also with people I met on LinkedIn and through my blog. And this was my research process then, to understand really what areas my potential clients were struggling with. And based on that, and also based on my personal preferences, what I like to write about, I created content. I wrote blog articles, hundreds of blog articles that took up those topics. And really, my first product to get started were my templates, which are still really some of my top sellers. They are selling really well. But really, I had to understand what issues my clients were facing, and we are talking here about authenticity and also authentic influence. It's a very abstract term, but in the end, it really comes down to having a clear picture of who your customers are, how your product can help them or service, and of course, it must be really a valuable product, a good service, great product, and then to make this connection. This is the problem my customers are facing. This is what I can offer you, and really having a deep understanding, spending the time to really understand the situation of your clients. What does a day look like? How do they organize their work? What do they do outside of work? Get really a great persona or a great understanding of their situation. And that's what really resonated very well. Then my content and my videos. I started also a small video channel. I created a video. How does my day as a project manager look like? And it's really, it's super authentic. I mean, it's recorded in my living room, no fancy camera equipment, but people love it. It's very popular on YouTube. And so that's how I started, doing research and really create content and a service that really stands out. And people notice that now. It's my website gets recommended by recruiters. It's a mandatory reading in many universities, and project leaders, people involved in projects, they are sharing my content and my links to my product. So it's kind of a how do you say, it's word of mouth is working very well here.
That's really fantastic. So are you okay to share just where you're at right now in terms of monthly volume coming to the site?
I have around 60,000 visitors per month.
Yeah. And so that's built in how many, what's the time frame again? Since you launched the site, how many months was it to get to this point?
So it's 48, about 40 months, between 35 and 40 months.
Yeah.
So it took some time to really get to that traffic, and probably the mistake I made, I think we're also going to touch maybe SEO.
Yes.
So the the general idea is here, the general recommendation is here, look what the competition is writing about, and then you're creating better content. That did work well for me in some areas, but most of the time probably didn't work that well, because when these topics are already covered on other websites, who have a stronger, I think it's called domain authority, it takes much longer for you to rank at the same or even a better level. So in the end, I just had to test different kinds of articles, long form, short form, and in the end, it really is the 80-20 rule showing here. So 80% of my traffic is coming from 20% of my pages.
I know that you did something interesting, I think earlier this year, where you essentially did a review of your content and perhaps keywords, and you looked at what keywords, and I guess this is how you arrived at the 80-20 percentages, and you realize, okay, there are certain keywords that bring in people to your site who are buyers versus those who are not buyers. Can you just explain how you went about that, and what did you learn in that process?
Yes. So from a broader level, I mean, when you're starting a new business, and today it doesn't matter whether it's online or offline, because you always have a web presence, a website. You have to think about, how do you get visitors to your site who will eventually be converting and who will be interested in your products. And so what most companies, they will just they will look for some writers who are not familiar with the area, with the topic, and they will produce some generic content. The problem with that, it's not it's not authentic, it doesn't go deep, it's not really valuable content, and people, the visitors, they notice that. And generally, if you observe what companies are doing, they're just there's a lot of copying each other. So they, in my niche, nearly every software vendor who is offering project management tools, they are writing about how to start a project.
Yeah.
So, and that's also the only topic, or one of the few topics, that you can basically give to a writer who is not a project manager. And they will produce some content. They will reuse some of the material that they already found on Google. So it's a dead end street. It doesn't get them anywhere really. So then what I did was really think about topics or questions that my audience was Googling, that really occurred, or that they raised themselves during a project, for example. And something that worked very well for me was to create an article about how to write a thank you email after project completion. So what do you if you are a good leader, a good team leader or a project leader, you will take some time. I always spend hours to craft a really nice thank you emails to everybody on the team and to all the stakeholders and to management. So it's something really important. And we created an article around that, and I think it's the number one article in terms of traffic, and it also ranked immediately. So really, from 1 week to the next, we got hundreds of additional visitors per day. Yeah. Unlike when you are just doing there it is. So it's you can see it here. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And unlike when you just do a competition and competitor analysis, and you look at what is the competition writing about, and you just copy their content and try to improve it, which takes you months. Nowadays it can easily take you 6 to 12 months for an article really to rank well and to bring in traffic. Whereas this really short article, as you have it here on the screen. It's bringing us hundreds of visitors per day, and so this is one of the things I learned. Is really, if you just look at the competition, you'll never be better than the competition. You'll always be at the same level, but try to write about something that is maybe not so easy to write about, that you can't give to a writer on Upwork, where you actually have to talk to somebody who is involved in your business, or in my case, in project management. So in this case, this is Ken is a senior project manager who works for a Fortune 500 IT company. So he wrote that article for me. So it's really to think about what questions is your audience asking. What are they struggling with? And there are always these topics that are really hard. How do you give honest feedback to an employee? How do you say no to a potential client? It's really hard. And if you can cover those topics also, you can get a lot of traffic quickly. And if you create great content, people will appreciate that. And this article, this already brought me in, coaching clients and customers. So the conversion is very well.
That's fantastic. And like, just even looking at, just hearing you share the story of narrowing the topic idea to a thank you email, like that wouldn't occur to me as a starting point, right? Like that's
right.
And you also mentioned that it's taken you a while to, you were writing articles at the beginning, and you had ideas, and like you say, most I assume when most people starting out would go for the generic content, that they would go and look for how to start a project, how to what are the best project management tools, like common topics that even generic writers could write who are not project managers. But then, as you say, the value comes in when you can really get clear around going deeper on specific topics, and getting to here are specific things that project managers are doing, or things that will actually help you with its build reputation. Because I remember that was a huge thing. Like when I was working at the company, it's we all wanted to stand out because they literally had hundreds of project managers, and you were trying to maybe get the promotion and become the program manager, or whatever it is that you were trying to do in your career. Or maybe you're just trying to get the pay rise, and you were trying to or get better projects, right? There's this whole bunch of things and I love this I've got the blog categories on the screen here. And you go into things like mindset and career and managing cost and risk, of course, and these are all just fantastic categories to really explore. And I could see someone, as a growing project manager, or even an experienced project manager, really diving into these. I had a question from the community. So I've got Adam, who's one of our community members. His question, so he's like he's just starting to learn UX, and he's just got a new role, and project management is obviously a part of what he's doing. And he was curious about how hands-on are you now with your business and producing content compared to when you first started. Just in the example there, you had an example here where you had Ken, another project manager, writing content for you. So I guess Adam's question is, how much time are you spending on the business, and how has your role changed over since you began?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if I understood the question fully. I mean, is the question whether I'm still managing projects, or
it's just in terms of the business of your
the business?
Okay. Because when you started, you're doing everything, right? So you're writing your own content, you're doing all the keyword research, you're interviewing the people and people in your industry to understand their problems and pain points, and really craft those personas. And now you've got, I guess the question here is, how much of your time and energy is spent on your business, and how much do you have other contractors involved? Do you have, I think you were hiring a VA this year as one of your goals. So,
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Can you talk about
I still, let's say, I define the overall strategy. I have to some degree documented my processes so that I can train somebody else to do the work. For example, in the beginning, I spent a lot of time connecting with project managers via LinkedIn, and engaging them in a dialogue, and getting them on for an interview, or sharing ideas. So, and there I had a VA do that for me. I have a couple of people I work with. Something that has worked well for me is content writing by university students who are taking project management as I think it's master's degree. So that's working very well. But I'm always, let's say, giving input. So I still do a lot of the research, or providing a content brief, a really thorough content brief. I'm reviewing the articles, giving feedback. But I'm starting more in delegating work to people on Upwork, good contractors. So it's not easy, because it's also not there are the problem in my area that there are the project managers who are really good. They're either too busy with their projects, so they have no time to write articles for me. But Ken is a great example, because he enjoys writing. And I think I didn't find him. I didn't connect with him on Quora, but I also found some people on Quora. I actually met him somewhere in the train in Germany here.
Fantastic.
So, and I immediately hired him. So, yeah, but and then there are people who are retired project managers, but they also want to do other things. They want to start investing, or learn how to, I don't know, build drones or whatever. So it's not easy to find people who are both good at writing and communicating, but also who have a good understanding of, good experience of project management.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm that's my goal, of course, to delegate more. But I wouldn't don't want to sacrifice the quality here, because that's how I currently stand out.
Another question from Adam is around just the financials, specifically what expenses do you incur to keep the business running? So what are your ongoing costs for the business?
It's not that much. I mean, I use some software platforms like WP Engine for hosting the site, which is also already $150 a month. So this is quite expensive. But with the traffic I have, I need a good platform. The usual stuff like Adobe Creative Suite. So it's probably, I mean, it's less than $1,000 a month, or everything together, including the bookkeeper. So yeah. I always want to keep expenses low, because I don't need that much, to keep the business running. I don't have any physical products. If we need some software license for a specific article, then I will delegate the work to some contractor who has Microsoft project. So it's not that much.
And when you're hiring contractors, is it typically are you paying per project, or it's not per hour?
It's usually per project. Yeah. Unless it's some research where it's really hard to know the effort up front. So
yeah, and I think that's a good tip for Dam and anyone else who's listening to this, in terms of when you are contracting work, it's good if you can budget per project and make that clear, because obviously a lot of contractors would prefer the hourly rate, because then depending on the scope of the project. But I think the advantage of being a project manager is you already know how to scope projects.
Yes.
And you already have templates that you've got on your site that you offer to people that you can use to say, hey, this is how we budget. So that's really fantastic. Let's talk about how to market your business in an authentic way. You kind of touched upon things like producing video content, from your living room, and showing who you are, and putting a face to the brand, so to speak. On your website, we can see there's a photo of you on the sidebar. what are your can you just share your thoughts around what, first of all, why is it important to be authentic in your marketing, and then secondly, what are some of the things that you've done and continue to do to ensure that you're building that connection with people?
So the first thing is really, as I said also before, it's really knowing, understanding your customers, your audience. Really, what are they struggling with? What are their goals? What are they dealing with on a daily basis? So really, having worked with them maybe side by side for some time, having observed them in their job, doing their work, this is critical to be able to later on produce marketing material and of course products which are well received and which the customers like, because they notice that you really understand what they're struggling with or what they're dealing with. You can't skip that part, and that requires a lot of research in the beginning, but it's definitely worth the effort. And I have lots of files with tons of research information of interview transcripts from people that I have interviewed that I'm still using today. This is from 4 years ago, and I can still use their language, talk about use really their language and talk about the things that's going on in their mind, because I have done this research. And this is the first step to communicate and to market yourself in an authentic way. The second part is really, in the beginning especially, I tried to, really try to stand out by making the blog. I intentionally didn't make the blog like super sexy in terms of design. I drew the images and any graphs that I create. I drew that really in PowerPoint, very basic, and everybody noticed this was done by somebody who understood what he was talking about, but also some not by some marketing agency. So really scrappy and very basic, but and not focusing on the everything, great design and everything like that. The second part was also, video definitely helped too, and I still that's something I realized that works very well. So whenever I have a call also with somebody, they often buy my courses afterwards, my expensive courses. So video is a great way to connect with people if it's done in an authentic, non-salesy way.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm adding videos to many of my articles, so that people just see my face and they hear me talking. And to add on to that, I also have been experimenting with creating better video quality. I bought a green screen in my house and better camera, and it looks perfect, but I think it looks too perfect. So I probably go back to the living room video shot, because it looks real. Otherwise, you're just one of the other big
Highly
lazy
produced
companies which are produced in a studio by people who don't have a clue about what they're talking about. So that is what I think about marketing yourself in an authentic way. And I share lots of personal stories in my articles, if you go through the articles. So I make jokes. I talk about things that I failed at, things that I've learned. Lots of personal stories. One was about me and my wife buying an expensive, ugly couch that in the end we discovered nobody liked. But we just thought that we wanted to make our partner happy, because we thought that he or she liked the couch. So, so that is authentic marketing. How I do it, and it's really what helps me stand out, and I want to maintain that. Just yesterday, I started, polishing a little bit the fonts on the side, but I take it very slowly.
Yeah, I just want to recap a few things that you said there. One is really and you keep really emphasizing the importance of understanding your customers, investing in that research, interviewing people, using their language. I mean, that's something that I teach copywriters, and when I ever speak about what I do as a copywriter, 80% of the work is actually in that customer research phase, and that's what I think a lot of people who don't do copywriting so much don't understand. Like, they think it's they might think it's 80-20 the other way, where it's 80% writing stuff. It's actually, what you and I understand is, if you don't really connect with your customer or your reader at their level, you lose trust, right?
Absolutely.
So if they come to just say you've done an amazing job with a keyword, they land on your site, then they're reading through your content and they think, oh, this is so generic, that this person Adrian or this person Amph doesn't really understand me. They're going to bounce. They're going to go somewhere else. And then adding elements like video, photos, you can do that. And really like what you're saying about, even though you have the green screen and you can create some really high quality content, and there's places for that, right? So you might determine that for some specific campaign, that polished look might work well for you, but in other cases, on the couch in the living room, let's just be behind the scenes with Adrian, and let's be real, that builds connection and rapport quite quickly, as we've seen. And then sharing personal stories in your content, that's a huge one. And I can't emphasize that enough. Like, you talked about the couch story, and then you and your wife finding the couch. Like that kind of stuff, you can't make up. And writers can't, if you were to outsource content, like,
exactly.
They can't know that about you. So for you to share stuff like that,
and it's not hard to come up with such or to. I mean, you have to have some experience, but it's more about having the courage, to stand out, to be different, and not look like do the same that everybody else is doing, because the boring stuff, nobody wants to read that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you ever deal with what do they call it, imposter syndrome, where you feel like, is it even worth me sharing this couch story? Like, did that question come into your mind?
I think we all struggle with imposter syndrome regularly. That's part of the growth process. But what I keep a Word document where I store all the customer the testimonials. So it's just been, lots of people connecting with me on LinkedIn and thanking me for my amazing content, and how it has helped them. And that makes me always happy. So when I think you have this, now I have a lot of traffic, people coming to my site, and you get these nasty, angry emails sometimes from people who want to put you down. But, I can always go back to that Word document with all these people who are so thankful for how I have helped them. So that's just reminding yourself of that you are doing a great job, and that's normal, that you are struggling, that we struggle with imposter syndrome, because there's this barrier we are working on, working towards. We want to get to a higher level. It's a matter of improving constantly. And also, what I want to add here is to what you said before, like, also, it's very important not just to understand the situation of their client, but also to get to be open to feedback.
Yes.
So when you get like a negative feedback, maybe I've been creating some templates, and most of them, they worked very well, but sometimes people didn't like the one template. So and I then listen and understand what they are trying to accomplish, and then you can improve your product. So you can actually be happy if you get negative feedback, because it allows you to improve. Whereas if you're just obsessed with your own work and you think it's amazing, and you're being you don't want to look at the negative feedback, then you can't improve your business. So it's very valuable. And one thing I really did was from the beginning was to offer a personal connection, so people can find my email address in my LinkedIn in profile everywhere on the site. I even added my WhatsApp number, but nobody used it so far. So people are able to connect, and that's also what builds trust.
100%. You mentioned the products and using feedback to develop the product, improve it. Can you talk a bit about just what a typical product development flow looks like for you? Like, how do you go from an idea or even deciding what the next product's going to be, and then what's the timeline look like to actually get that launched and selling?
Yeah, the timeline is always flexible. No, so I always keep a list of ideas, and one example, and sometimes it's just my own ideas, and sometimes it's from customer feedback. So for example, I have a while ago I published an ebook about how to use Microsoft Project, so one of the leading project planning tools. And this ebook is popular, and I got a question from a visitor, like, do I offer also exercise sheets for Microsoft Project, which this lady could give to her students? So I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe I should create this exercise sheets, turn this ebook into, break it up into several exercise sheets, PDFs, which people can buy separately or as a bundle. So that's what I'm creating now. And actually, I've hired a project engineer or project manager for that to create these worksheets for me. So both ways. I go both ways. Either using my own ideas and then ideally testing them. Asking your audience, or asking. Taking the feedback from the clients. What are they asking you? Can I use this product also here? Does it work in that way? And do you have something that can help me with that? So be very open about that and keep track of all these emails. This is very, very valuable.
And then are you, I assume you're using some kind of project management tool to track, develop, like, the launch sequence, like I know you're working on a sales page currently. So, you go from idea, you've got, you're doing some validation in terms of getting feedback on the product. I'm about to launch this template, or I'm going to do this package, or whatever, this course is about to come out. How do you sort of timeline that to go, okay, well, this is when the landing page is going to go up. This is when I'm going to send it out to my list, or whatever it may be. Do you try and tackle that within a certain period, or are you kind of more flexible with?
So I always say I hate planning, and I only applied advanced planning techniques at work as a project manager because I had to. No, I mean, now I have family, I have a child. It's not so easy to. I mean, you can create a plan, but from tomorrow it will again break your plan. So I'm going more with blocking a few hours every day for product development. So more an iterative style. So I think every day from 9 to 10, I have 1 hour where I work on the product, and then maybe then in the evening 1 hour. So because the thing is, as you know, we are working in a creative business, so you can't do this creative work for 8 hours a day. It just doesn't work. Especially writing is extremely difficult. It's really hard. So I try to create these time boxes and then combine my my work with some other tasks on a day. Like maybe I will then edit a video. I will create a script for a video. So like I always have 2 to 3 things I'm working on at the same time. I'm not working on one product for the entire day. I wouldn't be able to do that. So a couple of tasks, a couple of products or ideas, and then make progress every day. So
I think you need that on a t-shirt. Make progress every day. I like that. Some merchandise.
Right.
We're going to wrap up very shortly. I wanted to just address a question coming from the community around, okay, if you were to start from scratch, right? Knowing what you know now, okay, and you know, and you had to start the business again tomorrow, and you didn't have an audience, you didn't have this, you know, 60,000 visitors a month to your site. What would you be doing in the first 30 days?
I think it's really about the first thing is you have to when you want to start a business, you have to also accept that you have to try different ideas before you see some traction and some results. So and that's sort of what I did. Like I tested my project management course. So that's what I would be doing in the first 30 days. Like make a list of, let's say, these are my 10 or 5 potential business ideas, and then test each idea for a couple of weeks and do something like reaching out to people on LinkedIn or Facebook and or offer a course, some live class, see if people are interested in what you have to say in your product or service, and then iterate through this and then decide for what area you want to go deeper in. And another part you ask about knowing what I know now. I think with the internet, it's amazing how you can build businesses around a very, very narrow topic and still be highly financially successful. Let me think about a good idea. I mean, you have people who are teaching you how to secure your warehouse or how to provide first aid to your children, or very narrow, or how to I mean there are a couple of many how to train your dogs, and then even there you can narrow down. You don't talk about dog training, but how do you train your poodle?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe even some specific poodle breed, and still, if you have an English speaking global site, you will get enough. You may get enough visitors and business to really have a great life. And I didn't know this from the beginning. Maybe I would have narrowed down more my business, let's say, by going specifically into IT project management, which was my domain. But I didn't. I started with this broad approach. So my next step will probably be to narrow down more on different verticals.
Yeah, I really like that, and it's that temptation to go broad at the beginning, because you kind of think, oh, I need to reach everyone and I want to get everyone, because then that means more money.
Yes.
But certainly in my experience and with the guests I've had previously on the show as well, they've said a very similar thing. They've said, once we went narrow and specialized really in a subsection of what we do, that's where they became known for that area. Like it's easier to become known as the IT project management expert versus the broad project management expert, the PMP that everyone else is trying to become. And even if you want to specialize as the person who trains people in how to become the PMP, how to get the certifications, I mean, that's quite narrow.
Right.
So and you do much better that way. I really like that. How long this is a question from Adam again. He was asking just how long did it take before you started to make a healthy monthly profit margin from the time you launched?
So I started my website 4 years ago, 2017. I only started in the beginning. I gave away my templates for free. I had no products. I didn't earn any money. I only started selling products last year. And that's then when it quickly took off, because I already had the traffic. I just hadn't really monetized my content and my product yet. But it really, I mean, if you think about that way, then it took me really 3 years. And I think that's realistic. 3 to 5 years is totally realistic, probably even more on the lower end, to make a healthy income.
Yeah, I that resonates with me for sure. I think it's it's a consistent practice of putting out valuable content, understanding your market, and building, that influence. There's also something that, for those who really want to get into the SEO part of it, probably I recommend go back and listening to some of Gert's interviews on this podcast, and even on his own, on the SEO Leverage podcast, where he talks about the Google sandbox and the time it takes for an article to rank. You can't write something and publish it today and expect to be page 1 tomorrow or next week. Like usually it takes a few months, and it also depends on different factors like your domain authority, backlinks, and a whole bunch of other factors. I think that shouldn't be the goal. I think the goal needs to be, how can I continue to provide value to my audience, and to do things like, when I was displaying your page earlier, your site earlier, like you have these pop-ups where, if I'm reading your article and I scroll halfway down the page, I've got this pop-up coming up in my face saying, hey, are you interested in grabbing some of these templates, which are relevant obviously to the reader. And then that's a way to get, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Project managers love templates. We live on those things, and anything that can help us speed up our time, to work out a solution or to manage the project better. We're all over that. So that's, I think you're in a really special vertical or niche, because you're in a, like accountants. Accountants also love templates and spreadsheets and things like this. So if you're offering those sort of resources, it's natural for people to want them, and it's it's pretty common in those industries.
Yes.
Adrian, I appreciate your time for joining us today. I've got 2 more questions for you, just to wrap up this conversation. The first one is there some kind of resource, a book or a podcast or a course that has really helped you with your product development and your online business journey?
Great question. So I was in a online program or online course building program. It was by Ramit Sethi. It was called Zero to Launch. I think they now changed it. It's called Earnable, as far as I know. So this was a really great course. It's still available, but under a different brand, different name. And this is really where I learned to do customer research, to do these interviews, because that's what he emphasized, to really understand your market and your client very well before you start building your first product. So this is what I can recommend, definitely. And then, I mean, the 4-hour work week is also a classic. There's so much valuable content in there. I still go back to that book every now and then, and I learn something new, even though I have gone through it already. So these are very, very good resources, I would say.
I will say yes to both. I've been following Ramit for some time. I haven't done his course, but I know I've heard good things about Zero to Launch. I didn't know it's been rebranded, but that happens sometimes with products. Final question for you, is just around, what's one thing you do? I know you're a parent as well as an entrepreneur. What's one thing that you do for your mental well-being and mental health?
For my mental well-being and mental health, play with my little daughter every evening. That's a lot of fun. And also, having long walks outside. This is usually where I get the good ideas, because you can't generate great ideas just by sitting at your computer. But then I have to go outside and get some fresh air, and then come back with new ideas and a fresh mind.
I love that, and I think it's something that the pandemic, particularly and those who are in lockdown, will know. Just going for a walk, like that is such a and out in nature is such a healing and such a refreshing thing to do, and that's become a practice that my wife and I do on a daily basis now, and it's a great time for us to connect. But also, I also do a morning walk. When I wake up, I go for a walk, and before I get my coffee, and that's really been helpful for me. And like you say, a lot of creative thought happens when we're in motion, which is really fantastic. And of course, I love that you mentioned that you're spending time with your daughter, and that kids are funny because they can be your entertainment as well as your sometimes they can be your frustrations, but
Right.
but certainly there's much joy in like for me hanging out with my nephew, in your case with your daughter. That's fantastic. Adrian, it's been amazing having you on the show. I think
Thank you very much.
We've learned a lot about product development, about authentic marketing, and just the way you build trust online by just all the different tactics that you've utilized and shared here. Any last messages for our audience thinking about going into building an online business or building an online brand like you have?
Well, really do your research and rather spend more time on the research, on the testing part than rushing into some idea where you recognize that it doesn't get any good market response. And just be willing to try different ideas. I've tried so many things before starting this successful business, so it just takes time. It's a matter of numbers also, and of staying put and persistence.
Love it. We could probably do a separate episode around failure and what we've learned about things that didn't work. You can connect with Adrian at tacticalprojectmanager.com. I'll link to obviously the sites and some of his resources in the show notes. So please go and do that. And if you have any interest in project management at all, I mean, that's a key resource for you. And definitely go and check that out. Or even if you're just interested in the business model and what Adrian's doing with his business. So thanks again, Adrian, for joining us. And have a wonderful evening for you soon over there in Germany. And we will catch up again real soon.
Thank you, Anf. It was great to talk to you.